Hello and welcome to Menu Heroes Digest. I'm your host, Steven.
I am Jordan, the co-host, and all men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night, in the dusty resonances of their minds, wake in the day to find what was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. This I did. T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. It's Uncharted time, guys! Yay!
Yay!
We're doing the Uncharted!
Yes, in case it wasn't made apparent, we will talk about briefly Uncharted, the movie. Jordan went and saw it.
I did.
Other things you can look forward to is a spoiler-free review of the Cuphead show, because, I finally did my homework for once and watched the entirety of a show. To be fair, each episode's like 11 minutes, so I was able to get it done in like two and a half hours.
And in a funny twist, I have not finished the Cuphead Show Season 1. I was trying to do my Uncharted research, and other things, so... Yeah, I was the one slack. I was the one that didn't do my Well, I did homework for one subject, but not the other, so...
Alright, well, I'll be candid. One of the articles, only one this time, but one of them I haven't read all the way because it's just so long.
Yeah, and as I said, we actually had a pretty decent amount of subjects for today. I will make one real quick, as I said. I know you had spelled doom and gloom for the, Kingdom Hearts Switch cloud port for the, obviously Nintendo Switch. And, it turns out that didn't turn out very good. It, sucks.
Wow, who could have guessed?
Man, I mean, I should have known. I was talking about the Mystic, and I always felt like, hey, I know it's usually a Square Enix and, Sony thing, but hey, it would have been awesome to have a fun time and play the Kingdom Hearts games, the HD collection, and enjoy it on a Nintendo Switch. But, first of all, you can't really enjoy the HD part of Switch because not all that HD.
No, the Switch is HD. The Switch is not 4K. However, the cloud version, you would have to have crazy fast internet. What the heck?
Yeah. I mean, I got 5G on my phone, but I don't think that applies to my computer.
I'll be right back. You talk about how the port sucks. I gotta kill a spider.
Okay, well, you good luck, man. No,
my cheese.
Long story short, only like 3 games, I believe, were going to be available for the Switch Cloud port, which was like Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and also the 2.5 remix, Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, and Kingdom Hearts 3 plus RE Mind. And if you know anything about Kingdom Hearts, there are so many other like small sub-chapters, like Chain of Memories and Dream Drop Distance and whatever the Aqua one was called. It had a weird long title that I think we all agree was kind of dumb. But anyway, Aqua was good, but these Kingdom Hearts games, they always have some of the weirdest titles. But anyway, there was the announcement last October that these would be available for the Switch, but only in cloud version. So, as I said, we as Kingdom Hearts fans were kind of excited just to finally get to play Kingdom Hearts on another console. But as I said, some people like Steven were the cynical ones in this situation, and trying to say, hey, this doesn't seem all that great. But I didn't want to. I wanted to believe it could be good, but turns out it is not all that good. The ports are awful on platform. They've been there's this sentiment ever since previews dropped, and now that it's finally out, released, fans across the internet are not too happy with how it turned out.
I mean,
check up on Twitter, and
cloud
Twitter will.
Cloud versions of games, they're hard to do right because there's gonna be lag, especially if you don't have internet that's really good. Also, I didn't mute my mic when I went to kill the spider, and I'm sorry about that. Because
I could hear you in the background, but I thought that could add to the ambiance of. Well, oh no! Watch out!
I dropped my cheese.
Goofy!
My cheese fell on the floor, so I had to throw it away because the floor is not exactly the cleanest thing.
Oh, that was your reaction towards cheese falling? I thought that was your reaction towards fighting the spider.
No, then.
Oh no! Eek!
And then I killed the spider, but it was on my lamp. So, the lamp came crashing down, and I didn't stop the video either, so that's it. So, just like the cloud port, everything fell apart.
Well, I'm more interested in what you were doing than having to realize, oh man, these Switch versions of Kingdom Hearts are not great. Again, cloud versions of Kingdom Hearts are not good. That's
the biggest reason.
I'm way more depressed about that than you having to fight a spider with cheese.
No. I just dropped the cheese. The cheese isn't really relevant, except for the part where it went, "Oh no, my cheese!" And when I realized, "Oh no, I'm not muted."
I won the fight against the spider, but at what cost?
All right. So.
But yeah, the game runs like garbage. It's choppy, it's laggy. Players have reported tons of latency issues. Let's see here, and apparently there's some part of it that's not even playable, or like the shared stories or startup problems. But that apparently that are blatant through all the Kingdom Hearts, the Switch ports. I'm keeping looking more and more, and it's like. You were charging some fans $90
Ooh.
for some, to buy the $100 all-in-one package for these buggy. No, Sony. I don't know who approved this, whether it be Square Enix or Nintendo. Like, no, just no.
I think it was probably Square Enix.
It's unacceptable. Yeah, probably. We have more to cover from Square Enix. We have a lot to cover about Square Enix. Don't you worry.
Now we have.
I figured I
will say that supposedly the reason they did cloud version instead of download had something to do with the storage size, but no, I still think they should have given fans the option to get versions that would download and they'd be able to play it local.
Well, isn't like Hollow Knight, isn't that a very big game? I mean, okay, granted, graphic-wise, they're totally different, but isn't that a very long, massive game that you can play on the Switch just fine?
Not compared to Kingdom Hearts, I don't think so. No.
No, I'm just saying.
Now there's games like
doing all three.
There's games like Saints Row, the 3rd and the 4th. On the Switch.
Yeah. Well, I think that was I know I probably should have picked a better example than Hollow Knight, but my point being is there have been big games available for the Switch that you can download. That maybe not on the length of all three Kingdom Hearts of the 3 main Kingdom Hearts games, but I think we fans would have been okay with them doing one at a time. If you just had Kingdom Hearts 1 or the HD Kingdom Hearts 1.5 Again, these weird titles, man. HD 1.5 and the remix versions. If you did, we would have been okay if it'd been one at a time. And eventually, because again, it's and then later you could have sold it all as one big collection, get it all right now, and it's you could have made even more money. This is the exact same conversation we've been having with the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. It's why didn't you guys just go with one, for just one game first, then a year later do the next game, and so on and so forth. And then later you could have did all in one big collection all together, and you could have made so much more money with that whole process. But just somebody said, no, we gotta have it all out at once. We gotta give the fans everything all at once, even if it's not fully functioning and it's not, we haven't debugged everything. I can't imagine how that could go wrong. There wasn't a clear example of this fan backlash last year and the year before that. I said I'd make this quick, but no, it's all pouring out, man.
That's okay.
But anyway, we are not the only ones that are outraged right now because of something Nintendo related. Sorry, I had to segue into another thing.
Oh no, that's fine. This next one isn't really surprising if you know Nintendo.
Yeah, it's just funny, kind of like you have like more of like an established sort of I guess like established amongst the video game community, an established like organization coming in after Nintendo for some of their choices. Like that makes it a bit more interesting, or adds adds more to the story than just simply a group of people being angry at Nintendo for something that Nintendo rightfully deserves to get scrutiny for.
All right, so I'm sure many of you have heard that Nintendo is closing the eShop for the 3DS and the Wii U in 2023. Now, this makes sense because, it costs money to keep the servers up.
Yeah, and obviously, like for the PlayStation Store for PS3, that's closed too. I'm sure that's been closed for a while, right? I still have a PS3 because,
I thought you got.
I still have some I have some games that I bought with my own money that are downloaded onto the PS3 that I do intend to keep. So, unless I'm granted some of those games probably have been available on PS4, but like I ain't got a TV to hook up the PS4 yet, so I'm keeping my PS3 for at least for a while now. You okay, man?
Yeah, I'm sneezing. Alright, so. Right. Nintendo is notorious for having mixed. They're not always the best when it comes to preserving their old games. Sometimes they do a really good job. In fact, sometimes the only reasons other studios have copies of their games is because they were published on Nintendo systems and Nintendo kept a copy of it. But there's also been instances where Nintendo has not. They've been really hesitant to back up stuff.
Yeah.
For instance, the Satellaview games were not backed up. The only reason we have copies of those today is because fans ripped the ROMs. And so the Video Game History Foundation, who does a lot with preserving old video games and hardware, are not happy with Nintendo because they, in being a paying member of a group called the Entertainment Software Association, apparently Nintendo ends up funding lobbying that prevents even libraries from being able to provide legal access to games. And it's a shame that Nintendo won't let there be archives of their games above board.
Yeah.
Because it means we have to rely on things like piracy. And some people try to take the high road. Some people are like, no, I'm going to pirate everything. Piracy is a very gray area. And not one we're going to get too deep into. But... No, It's a shame that Nintendo actively goes against preservation efforts. I love Nintendo. I think they make quality things, but it is a shame.
Well, what I can say about this is, mainly two things. One, Nintendo plays favorites. When it comes to the things that make them the most money, which is Mario, Legend of Zelda, Donkey Kong, occasionally Metroid, they will preserve and make it easy to access and get able to play those old games. When it's franchises like, say, F-Zero and some other obscure Nintendo titles, it's much harder to find copies of them, or they don't seem to put much priority into making them available for modern consoles. And two, being even though Nintendo, I think the reputation is a little higher than some other Japanese companies, they are still a Japanese company that has the mindset of, we should be the ones to decree when and where these games are being released. And if you're outside of our circle, we don't fully approve you, we won't let you use these games. We won't let you have access to these games, or you're just as bad as those pirates. It's not even just Japanese companies. It's just many Japanese companies in general have this mindset that they should be, that any third-party systems or organizations that are outside of their circle should not be allowed at all any access at all to their IP, because again, they see that as just as bad as piracy. But ironically speaking, that's encouraging piracy, because you're making it difficult for people to have access to your product.
Yeah. If they would just make it easier to access their older library, then piracy would still definitely exist, but people would be more inclined to purchase a legitimate copy instead of finding an illegitimate copy. And then there's some people who are like, well, if you can't find it and you can't support Nintendo, through buying it from them, then support your local mom and pop shops by buying them from there. But I'm sorry, Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced for the Game Boy is not worth $200. Not when you can just download it online.
Yeah, well, my first thought was, sometimes mom and pop shops aren't going to have the games you want. That was my first thought. But yeah, you make a good point. Sometimes they will raise the prices extremely high, far more than they should be. But because they're in demand, the stores can charge a bit extra just to be like, oh, this is the thing you want? Well, there aren't that many copies left, so let's go $250. $250? No, $250. Pay up. And that's the thing, they can do that.
It's a little crazy.
It's these things that drive people to piracy when there is a scarcity, when the thing they want is not it's not easy to have access to. And again, as we're saying, if the access to it was much easier, yeah, it wouldn't completely eliminate piracy, but you would make the argument of man, you truly are scum for pirating these things when it is available here, and can easily get it. It's by not having it available, then people have the mindset of I can't get it anywhere else. I have no other choice but to pirate it. And this is the problem that companies like Nintendo are creating for themselves. They are their own worst enemies by doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. I was to say, yeah, I mean, we kind of are very similar. It is not
it's not like we have
Crossfire, where we have different opinions, being like, no, you're wrong. How dare you? How dare you even think about piracy ever? You monsters! Yeah, it's we're not that.
No, I mean, we have a lot of the same beliefs and views. So there's not going to be often where we have differing opinions, but there's still points, which is fine because it's not about the important stuff. So
we're just in our own little echo chamber here, just bouncing our thoughts off, and
our liberal information bubble.
Hey, you said it, not me. I was gonna try and not say it out loud, but
if someone can't tell that we're left leaning by listening to us, then they just I don't know. Anyway. If they can't figure it out, if they can't figure it out, then they're just like the Ubisoft analysts who can't figure out why nobody wants to buy Ubisoft.
Great segue there. Great.
So yes, it seems nowadays that all these companies, these gaming companies especially, are getting bought up. Like Microsoft is in the process of buying Activision Blizzard. Sony was talking about buying, what was it? I can't remember the name. It's on like the tip of my tongue.
Well, I've heard rumors of Sony buying Konami, but
Bungie.
Oh yeah, no, buying. Sorry, they have bought Bungie, yeah, but it's like, I'm sorry, it's like the Konami rumor is the one I kind of want to believe, even though I don't want any of the executives of Konami to have a golden parachute, but also I want new Castlevania and new Metal Gear Solid games, so. Maybe it's best to make the deal with that devil.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And so Ubisoft recently had an earnings call where analysts basically asked, hey, why haven't you guys been bought already? To quote, what is their name? Matthew Walker.
Yeah.
He asks, in a consolidating industry, I guess I'm just wondering why you guys haven't had an offer given the embedded value in your IP. Is that because in order to be acquired, you have to signal that you want to be acquired and that you haven't done that? And the response, in short, was, we won't speculate on why there haven't been offers. And then I guess the CEO? Was it the CEO? Yes, CEO interrupted the...
Yeah, it's a French name. I'll try and say it, but obviously...
It's like Guillemot. Guillemot.
Yeah, Guillemot. Guillemot.
I took French in high school.
My cousin, one of my cousins, like, she knows French, but I never really bothered to ask her how to say some things. Like, I took Spanish, she took French, and you'd think we'd trade notes and learn from each other, so we can better understand the world around us and maybe like be able to have conversations with people who don't speak English. But no, we didn't. No, just didn't bother.
Anyway, they basically said in a roundabout way. Actually, no, they straight up said we're not speculating on that. If we're in talks, we're not gonna talk about it because we're not ready to go public with any of that stuff. But the CEO basically says, yeah, we're open to being bought, which is different than a few years ago when they were being courted by a media conglomerate in France called Vivendi. And during that, the CEO was like, no, we don't want to be bought. We want to be left alone, because if we get bought, then that will deal a huge blow to creativity in the video game industry. He ended up winning that. They ended up not being bought, and part of that was because they had a company that you might have never heard of, or maybe you have, called Tencent. Invest in them. I was gonna say I've heard of Vivendi, and I was about to ask, is that the same company that owns Riot? Because Riot is also a French company. Then I'm like, oh no, the Tencent owns Riot, or that's one of their parent companies. So yeah, I'm trying to hold my tongue with the quotes saying like, no, we don't want to lose our creativity. We want to remain independent. And it's like, yeah, you're speaking a different tone now with you just shoving NFTs down everybody's throat, and well, I mean, you know why, right?
Even shove it down to your employees, yeah.
Because they've lost creativity. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. The
culture around the company, which we've talked about extensively in the past, has led to not only an exodus of people of talented people, but it's also made people less. What's the word? Excited makes them less motivated to put their all into the work.
Well, I mean, yes, obviously of recent, the many scandals that have come out, especially with non-French or non-French speaking countries, and many Ubisoft employees being mistreated or belittled and everything. But this has been a problem that's been going on for quite a while, or it's been slowly but surely getting worse and worse and worse, because one of my favorite games growing up was Beyond Good and Evil. That was certainly a more experimental game that certainly had a cult following. But since that didn't make a whole lot of money, Ubisoft always saw that as a loss, and they became more afraid to try new things because of that. And plenty of companies, many like Capcom, have experimented before in the past. Didn't quite work out, wasn't big money makers like some of the other franchises, and they became more and more scared to try new things. I mean, that is a sad world we live in, and it's a shame that these companies are afraid to try new things, but also we as the fandoms seem to only want to keep bring up old franchises and don't want to seem to spend money on new stuff. So we are partially to blame there, but yeah, you can feel that being more a problem growing more and more in Ubisoft, especially in the last few years. But it's been slowly but surely just crept up into where we're now.
So, speaking of companies that have less than a stellar reputation right now, let's talk about Activision Blizzard a little bit.
You always gotta have that one Activision Blizzard story.
Yes, we do. So we had an article about the Microsoft Activision deal, and about how it'll raise challenges for the FTC. And I'm just gonna summarize a little bit that I read, because there was a lot and I still haven't read it all. Basically, the FTC has they have a limited budget, and law, when it comes to legal stuff, changing the law takes time. And it takes time even without, Congress butting heads. But with as politicized and polarized as the government has become in recent decades, any meaningful changes to the law are going to be gradual and take quite a while. That's why
wheels of justice they turn real slow.
Yeah, that's why. That's why the last couple presidents have issued so many executive orders, because it's sort of a way to circumvent Congress, and sometimes they do go too far. But, when Congress isn't doing anything and some things need to be addressed, they're like, hey, maybe we can do this. And it's a big, complicated mess, because it always feels like, when the person we want to be in charge, or the party we want to be in charge is in charge, we're like, yeah, go executive orders. But when the other party's in charge, we're like, no, executive orders bad. And it's like, nah,
it's a double-edged sword.
It's bad. It's good and bad when either is in.
Yeah.
And a lot of it depends on, what changes you're wanting to see. And like I think Obama was he was a good president. I think he was, at the very least, he was a very well-composed man who had a good sense of humor and, generally was a good person. He probably did some overhanded stuff. I don't know all the details. I was a kid when he was president. I didn't really get into politics until the 2016 election. And, that was because of the obvious memes and Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, the Pokemon Let's Go to the Polls.
Yep. No.
Yes, that's the reason she lost. No. No, we're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into that, Jordan.
No, we're not. No,
I am gonna get into this real quick.
That,
Let's Go Brandon is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because people use it against people like Jordan and I. They're like, haha, let's go Brandon, and I'm like, okay, let's go Brandon, because I don't like Biden either.
Well, that's the thing. It's like. Of course, there is a coworker at my job who does have a "Let's Go Brennan" shirt that he wears ever so often, and I think he really thinks it's affecting me. But it's more like, why don't you just say "Screw Joe Biden"? Why are you trying to code this? It's like we had no problem saying "Screw Donald Trump."
It's so funny.
Like, why are you hiding your hatred for Joe Biden? Like,
it's really funny because they're like, you're taking away my freedom of speech. And I really shouldn't do that accent because not all country people are like that. I know it's not. I know it's not. But also, I do know people. I work with people with that exact accent, so it's. But I mean,
it's like I'm speaking to somebody.
But I mean, people in California and New York will say similar stuff. So I'm trying to get away from. I don't know, I'm trying not to do accents so much as an insult, like to intelligence, because it feels kind of... It doesn't feel right to do it. Obviously country people aren't like a protected class, but I still don't think I should do it. Anyway, weird moral dilemmas aside, gotta be honest, I forgot what I was saying.
Well, basically, the story we were covering was Bobby Kotick.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Many of his records have been subpoenaed by the police department of Los Angeles, and basically, and also many of the records of at least 18 or so current and former Activision employees have also been subpoenaed as well. So,
yes.
As I said, federally, the Securities and Exchange Commissions have also set an additional subpoena to Activision as part of an investigation it launched last year into the company's handling of sexual harassment allegations. And of course, oh
my god.
The representatives of Activision are trying to say this is all going too far. This is extraordinary, fishy, and everything, and. Because of course they're trying to cover their own tail, trying to, make this not as big of a deal as it is. But we all know it. We all know what happened, or so much that their dirty laundry has been out in the open, and it's. And again, it makes what Microsoft buying them out. It makes them a little fishy too. I mean, all these companies. I don't have much faith in them, but it's for a while it seemed like Microsoft was swinging back up into people's good graces.
I mean,
And what were we trying to say?
Microsoft's kept out of the limelight kept out of controversy for the most part. They haven't had an antitrust, problem in a couple decades. But, just because they're buying Activision Blizzard doesn't mean that, they're instantly shady. Because, Activision Blizzard is probably at one of its cheapest purchasing prices at the moment. Because of all the controversy going on, the faith that investors have lost in it.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely say that I'm sure if these scandals had not come out publicly, I'm pretty sure Activision Blizzard would have asked for a higher price tag for Microsoft to pay if they didn't come out. And it's more now with all this going on, Microsoft's gonna be like, you sure we can't go a little lower, because we can just say no to this. In fact, we look like the good guys if we walk out right now and not buy you out. It's like no, fine, 70 million, whatever, we'll take it.
But yeah. Oh, I remember how I got on the topic of politics, by the way. It was because we were going to briefly cover that Microsoft buying Blizzard story, but there's just too much to cover, so...
Well, yeah, consider this be, a two-parter. Well, not two-parter, but we just combine two different stories together into one, because it does rely on, like, you know, Activision Blizzard is going to be part of Microsoft now. So all this going on with Bobby Kotick's past, as well as like these antitrust, like, you know, mindsets of going on, and you know, it's a whirlwind, man. A lot is going on all at once. There is some benefits to this whole ordeal, but also like there's gonna be some consequences, and B, you know, it's gonna, you know, like I'm sure people are not gonna, you know, are still gonna be hesitant to buy the next Activision and or Blizzard something related, even with Microsoft being involved, and they're gonna work a little harder to get people's good graces again.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the Guardians. The Guardians of the Galaxy. So, Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, my bad, I have to specify, was published by Square Enix in October of last year, I believe. It is, in short, it's a tightly paced linear third-person action game where you play as Star-Lord, but it's not Chris Pratt's take on it, which is a little weird. That was something that turned me off of the Avengers game, because I'm so used to seeing, you know, like Chris Evans as Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and not the characters not having their likeness kind of threw me off, because I'm not a traditional comic fan. I didn't grow up reading the comics. In fact, it took forever for me to get into watching the movies and to enjoy the, you know, Marvel.
I understand what you're saying, but as I said, I'm coming from the perspective of not only have I read the comics, but also there have been plenty of like animated shows and other video games where they didn't have any live action actor. Well, like, obviously back then there weren't any Captain America or Thor movies by the time when they were making games and stuff about Avengers and stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to the idea of them having different looks, or granted, the Marvel video games in the 90s and early 2000s were based more on the comics looks, or like, you know, comics look, but slightly changed to fit whatever look or style the game was going for. So it obviously didn't bother, but I can understand. I can understand some people, like, because there are plenty of Marvel fans that have gone in just because of the movies and are looking at the other mediums out there, and you know, I'm sure it's going to take them at least a little adjustment period to get used to other looks besides what they're used to with the movies. So anyway, that's your all I gotta say about that. This is the old Marvel fan speaking here. That's my point of view.
Now, I gotta say, you are wrong.
Really?
Yes. There was a live-action Captain America when they were making video games back in the day.
Okay, yes, there were 3 Captain America movies, but it's like
the 1990 film.
I think only, and the 2 70s ones. Yes, I watched them, Steven, because that's all there was of Captain America at the time.
Let's not forget the one from 1944.
Oh yeah, so 4. Okay, all right. So yes, I can't forget, Steven, because, you know, being someone who liked Captain America, you know, at my age, at a young age, look, it's funny that, like, nowadays people are kind of okay with Captain America First Avenger. I mean, obviously people love Captain America nowadays, so it kind of does boggle my. It is kind of cool, and just looking at like so many kids with Captain America shirts and merchandises and everything, whereas, you know, 9-year-old, 10-year-old me was like trying to explain to people why Captain America's cool, and everyone thought, like, that guy looks stupid. He's carrying around with his shield. Ugh, lame.
I mean, he does look stupid.
Like a real hero, like Batman. You know, that was what I grew up with. That's what I had to deal with at a young age. So, I'm happy there are kids that can just look at Captain America and say he's cool and can buy stuff and not have a lot of people laugh at them. So
yeah, no, I get you. I'm just teasing.
Nah, it's cool.
So, anyway, going back to the story, there's been strong reviews for Guardians of the Galaxy, but apparently that was not enough to meet Square Enix's initial expectations for sales. Now,
to be fair, it never is.
Yeah, they've had this issue with the 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider. They had this issue when they pulled out of the Hitman series. They had this issue with Marvel's Avengers, and with Outriders.
Now that one is deserving.
Yes.
That one is a big letdown on all levels. I will say, okay, they're kind of around that. But, there was I wouldn't say it was like a GTA clone, but it was sort of like a street level, like sort of crime game, Sleeping Dogs, that Square Enix had. That was a really solid game that does have a cult following. But it's like, because that game wasn't huge or didn't make the same amount of money as GTA, they deemed it not worth their time to do a sequel. It's like so many people have been hoping that a sequel would come out of it. But yeah, it's like Square Enix, man, like it's like the only thing that meets their expectations is Final Fantasy, but that appeals to a huge audience all around the world, and they always make gangbusters money. And it's like it's becoming the same problem with Capcom, with Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. Those make such big bank; those make all the money for them, but like everything else doesn't meet those expectations, and they're like, well, nobody wants that anymore. Just pop out more Resident Evil and more Monster Hunter, and it's like, no.
So, speaking of Square Enix,
I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy had won a bunch of awards.
Yeah,
we probably the Game Awards of last year. And people were pumped, excited for that. Like this legitimately got like good best story and like was a nominee for best action game and everything. Like people were genuinely happy and excited to see this game get recognition and love. And it's like, Square Enix, like these are the kind of games that maybe you should like devote some time to, or okay, if they cost a lot of money, then maybe figure out some way to like reduce the cost a little, because like people are responding to the story and to these characters. They love these characters, just like don't throw out a golden goose, please. Not again.
So speaking of the golden goose, NFTs.
Another quota for our show.
So
check that off the list.
So people were worried that the new Final Fantasy 14 expansion would have NFT elements, and when asked about it during a live stream, the producer Yoshida shot down the idea of it being included. He said that they would not be incorporated, but he is willing to talk about the concept of NFTs separately and can see them as an opportunity. So he hasn't completely ruled it out, but he does not intend on incorporating any NFT element in the game at this point. There's no intentions or intentions yet.
I mean, good on him for, well, again,
you hate NFTs.
I gotta take my victories when I can. So him saying we're not gonna shove it into this game that is not built for it, nor does it have any purpose for it in this game. I'm glad he said that. It does worry what is the next Final Fantasy anything gonna be like, and how they're gonna incorporate NFTs into that. Why they'd even bother with it in the first place? I know why, because the CEO is like thinking this is the future, this is what our company should be devoted to 24/7, and it's like, I'm hoping by the time they actually get any of these completed, that the whole thing will be just forgotten and just let go of, and we can all see it as the laughingstock. The laughingstock it was always. But these companies are just gonna pour a lot of money out on these kind of ideas because they gotta learn their lesson the hard way.
Yeah. So, I don't know if any of you remember the NFT logo. Do you remember what it looks like, Jordan?
Was it a hexagon?
It was a hexagon. And would you look at this? The letters are slanted.
I had a feeling you would go here next.
And now you can tell why I'm not a big fan of the Street Fighter VI logo. Besides it being generic and literally being an edit of not even a good edit, of a $80 stock image on Adobe Photoshop.
Okay, so let me just say this right now. Even hardcore Street Fighter Capcom fans are like, this logo sucks. So this is a feeling that everybody has, whether or not you like fighting games or not, whether or not you like Street Fighter or not. We all agree the logo is terrible.
This is like on par with Capcom Ultimate Match.
I mean, my first thought was like, is this going more of an MMA route? Is what my first thought was, but then it's like, no, MMA is more of an octagon. This is hexagon, so not quite. Well, look, okay, so I know we really covered it last week of like, oh, this countdown's coming down, what it could be and everything, and I know we had our thoughts about it, and
NFT logo, that's what it was.
No, you brought that. That was you, okay? And thankfully, they have not actually announced anything like that. I know that you said it as a joke, but there was always that I had nightmares for days after you'd said that. I was like, oh dear God, is Capcom really going to spend an entire event just to talk about NFTs? Please do not do this to me. Thankfully, they didn't. But putting all the pieces together, me being like like Charlie in that meme of like all the strings together and everything, it's like, to me, it's not that big of a surprise that Street Fighter 6 was the thing they announced, because they announced this. The countdown conveniently went to 0 right near the end of the Capcom Pro Tour.
I feel like you mentioned that the last time.
It's all about fighting games. Did I not talk about Capcom Pro Tour?
No, I feel like you did mention that last time.
Okay, cool. So basically, yeah.
Street Fighter 6, woo.
Yeah, and well, they didn't just announce Street Fighter 6. They also announced, I think the thing that many fighting game fans are even more excited for is the Capcom Fighting Collection, which has all 5 Darkstalkers games and Red Earth and Cyberbots, and also Street Fighter Hyper Edition, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Edition, that's the same, and also Pocket Fighters too, the cute little chibi fighting and puzzle game. So, like, again, that all these, I am way more excited for than Street Fighter 6. But ultimately speaking, like, I think that Street Fighter 6 can learn from the mistakes from Street Fighter 5 and be a much better game. I have hope. It's like, it's like call me an optimistic person, or at least optimistic when it comes to fighting games, but it's like, at the very least, like the 40-second teaser they show, which ain't much, the graphics look really good. Like, Ryu is pretty swole. Pretty thick, all things considered.
Oh my God.
If that's the level of graphics for the game, hey, this could be interesting, but it's more of like, that's all we got was 40 seconds. We didn't get any example of gameplay. We didn't get an example of like what the new mechanics for these, because they always introduce some kind of new mechanic to it. I am secretly hoping that this Street Fighter 6 becomes like the Capcom version of Smash, where any character from any Capcom property can show up. Like, well, like, because like the Final Fight characters like Guy, Cody, and Mayor Hargoth, they've been showing up. Well, I don't think Hawk up, but Guy and Cody have showed up in Street Fighter games. Poison has showed up in Street Fighter games. And it's like, why not just go ahead and just open up the floodgates? Let's have Darkstalker characters in a Street Fighter game. Like, why not? You know, Red Earth. Like, why not have big muscular lion man Leo, have him fight Rio, or have him fight Zangief? You know what? You know, let's just go nuts, Capcom. Let's have fun, and yeah, include Mega Man, include, you know, like Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. Why not? Just like let's stop the BS and let's have a fun fighting game where anybody who loves Capcom and all their properties can join in. Like Phoenix Wright. Remember Phoenix Wright was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3?
Mm-hmm.
You can bring it back in this game. Why not? Go nuts.
Give us Felicia.
Yes, absolutely.
You simp.
It's
anyway. Everyone's excited for the Capcom Fighting Collection. You know, the CFC, the chlorofluorocarbon.
And I will say right now, I will buy 2 copies. I will buy the Switch version. I will buy the PS4 version.
If there's a PS4 version,
there is. Like they did. It was like the very end. They showcase like, yes, this will be available for PS4, for Switch, and for Xbox Series X. Yeah, that's like the very end of the trailer. So
wait for the Fighting Collection or Street Fighter
Capcom
6?
Fighting Collection.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking about Street Fighter 6, which we didn't know anything about. Yeah, CFC will be launching digitally on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, Switch, and the PC through Steam on June 24th. A physical edition will also be available and will retail for $40. Excuse me.
I would go 60. I would go 60 or 70 because I want to show support. Okay, yeah, it's well known throughout the industry that Capcom does these collections because they're testing their customers. It's sort of the Capcom test where they're putting out these collections just to see if there's engagement and there's interest in these franchises. Like that's what they've always done. You know, it's how like we did get a. It's how we even got Street Fighter 4 in the first place, was because like many fighting games were not doing well in the 2000s, like the early 2000s, and Capcom wasn't sure if they were going to continue on, so they did release a Street Fighter fighting game collection, I believe in 2007 or 2008, and that sold pretty well, and that's what helped them to greenlight a Street Fighter 4. So it does work, putting your money where your mouth is does help. So
I do that every time I go out to eat food.
I really want a Darkstalkers game, so I will. If I have to buy 3 or 4 copies of this thing, I will. Okay.
Sam.
I bought all 4 Mega Man collections they released. So I make it very clear, Capcom, what I want, and I will give you money to get that thing. All right.
Alright, so we're talking about something someone's excited for. Let's talk about something that people were mixed about.
Yep. So anyway, we are finally getting to what we teased at the very beginning, which is the Tom Holland, the Uncharted movie starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. So anyway,
cast.
Yep. Yeah, I know I worded that differently, but anyway, yes. Pretty good weekend for Uncharted, or for the Uncharted movie anyway, because it managed to well exceed expectations. The studio, and I think also Forbes predicted it would do just $30 million in the box office. It ended up doing 45 on the. I think it did even more than that on the 4-day President's Day weekend. But anyway, yeah, it's like 46 million dollars. Certainly more money than we'll ever see, Stephen. So, yeah, doing pretty good business. I said the budget for the movie was like $120 million, and it's already gone past that overseas, worldwide. But if you know anything about like movie and production, behind the scenes stuff, I spend a lot of time researching that. You do kind of need to go. You need to at least like double what your movie budget was, because a lot of times they spend a little extra on marketing and promotions. So I think it has the potential to make past that. I think this movie could easily make $400 million when all things considered, unless the box office drops real hard next week in week 3. Which, I mean, you never know. Like, certainly it had a very positive like critical. It had a positive like audience response. The critics not so much. Certainly was leaning towards like 40%, 39% of critics actually received it positively. Many others did not. So the big question is, where do I fit in? Am I one of those uptight studio critics that scoffs at this dribble, or am I the casual Joe Schmo that like will go in and go on this adventure with good old Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg? I gotta say, I feel like I'm more of a man of two worlds here, because actually, like, I do like the Uncharted games. I played the first 3 anyway. I haven't gotten to the 4th one. I know, how awful me, terrible. But even then, I tried going in just not putting any baggage on this. Let's see this movie as it is. Same thing for the Resident Evil movie that came out last year, and yeah, no, that movie was just terrible, just as is. Even without like them making so many weird, awful decisions for this, like combining the first 2 games into one. This one, I can already tell you right now, is definitely better than that. This Uncharted movie is easily better than that Resident Evil movie. But I did end up like looking back at Uncharted 3, which I feel like this movie had most of inspiration from. Like it clearly, like, it's going with how Uncharted 3 has many flashbacks to a young Nathan Drake with Sully.
Sorry, real quick, I gotta interrupt you.
Okay.
You can keep giving your thoughts about this, but I gotta disappear for a couple minutes. I gotta go take care of some stuff real quick. I'll be right back. Okay.
Oh yeah. I got. Don't worry. I got some thoughts. Okay. Don't you worry.
All right.
So, and actually, looking back at Uncharted 3, I can easily see why the studio picked Tom Holland to play Nathan Drake, because I like looking at like Tom Holland in like back when he was cast in Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming. It's like, yeah, he certainly has that face. He certainly was real young. Well, I mean, he was like in his like early 20s when he was first cast then, but he certainly still has a baby face. And he kind of still has a baby face now. But he certainly had the energy and the charisma. And I think in general, Tom Holland does a good job. I know people wanted Nathan Fillion. I know there's been other names floating around like Chris Pine that I think could have done really good as adult Nathan Drake. But clearly the studio want to go with a younger actor, or hoping that they'd get a young actor who could, keep playing many, many sequels from here on out. And I will say, like, I had my doubts, so I wasn't entirely sure. I think Tom Holland does a good job. I think first of all, he does the physicality very well. He is doing all of his parkour. I'm sure there's a stunt person there, but he has a history. He went to dance academy, or like he has had classical training in dancing and doing physical stunts when he was young. So he can do the physical stuff. If you're watching these Spider-Man movies thinking like, it's all CG, it's all fake. Nah, dude, Tom Holland can really do it. He can really do most of his stunts. And it's on display in this one movie as well. And I'd say the action sequences are really good, and cinematography I think holds it very well. I know last week when I heard the name Ruben Fleischer, I kind of cringed because I flashed back to like watching Venom, and I'm sorry, I do not like that movie. I know it has fans. I know there are people that stan Venom and Eddie Brock hard. I wish I was that person, but I'm not. Okay? But ultimately speaking, like, Ruben Fleischer did make one of my favorite zombie movies, which was Zombieland. I was probably like in like last year of high school. I was getting into community college when Zombieland came out. I loved it. I was thinking like, man, this guy's going places. This guy's got great cinematography. He knows how to do action sequences, and all the characters are amazing and fun. And I have been feeling like his last couple of movies have been lacking the character part. And I gotta say, like, that's the same problem with this movie as well. Because, yeah, no, Mark Wahlberg as Sully, no, does not work. Now, granted, there are some jokes here and there. There's some funny banter between Tom Holland's Nathan and Mark Wahlberg's Sully that I think works. That actually is kind of funny. But like, Mark Wahlberg is not really trying as Sully. He's not, he's just doing Mark Wahlberg. He's really not. He's not doing much different from most of his other characters. I've seen Mark Wahlberg be a good actor. I've seen him do good stuff. I also saw him in The Happening, so the guy can make some bad decisions. But again, I think that's also partially due to M. Night Shyamalan's decisions. But yeah, no, this was miscast, and I would not feel bad if Mark Wahlberg was recast in the next movie. And as for the actress who plays Chloe, I apologize, I don't have her name up right now, or I'll look at it real quick. But anyway, like, I feel like, first of all, she's an American actress, and that's not automatically a bad thing. Okay, so Sophie Taylor Ali, so she's an American actress. She's trying to do Aussie accent, maybe British. It doesn't always work for me. And I feel like her chemistry with Tom Holland sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I feel like at the very beginning of the movie, I was not feeling their chemistry at all. I thought near the end they were slowly setting up something. So it could be just a matter of like, maybe like in the next movie they'll figure out a way for these characters to gel better together. But again, it's also the same thing for like Antonio Banderas. Like, I do love me some Antonio Banderas, but like, I wasn't fully on board with him and like his character. He's one of the main villains of the movie until near the end, or like once we got to the second act, and I was starting to like, okay, oh, all right, this is interesting. Or like, okay, he's really okay. He's finally given his all. And again, this is a very non-spoiler review, so you don't have to give too much away. But yeah, I think the action sequences were really good. Cinematography I thought was excellent. These globe-trotting adventure films, if you can like have your characters go on these cool looking, like beautiful looking like set pieces and like set like locations and everything, and you have them look gorgeous, then you've done 50% of the work. But the thing that Uncharted is known for is not only the dungeon crawling and the puzzle solving and the trying to piece all the puzzles together to find the treasure. And there is a treasure hunt in this movie, but it feels like an afterthought. It feels like all the puzzles are not that well crafted, and it just feels like they were more interested in like they put more emphasis on the action and having beautiful locations than they were like having fun puzzle or interesting puzzles and trying to like piece together this big huge mystery or this big the treasure location. And as I said, like I'm sure this movie might get a sequel. I think there's enough in here to where there could have been a really good movie, but it just kept missing its mark. It just kept falling short. So no, this is not the worst video game movie, or this is not ruin the potential for Uncharted movies and its franchise. But I keep thinking like it kept making several missteps to where I couldn't fully enjoy it. I couldn't fully get immersed into this world they were making. So here's hoping they can learn from the mistakes and make a much better Uncharted movie next time. Because yeah, man, I think wow, sorry, the static in here is getting a little loud, but yeah. So that's my thoughts on Uncharted the movie, or Uncharted, sorry. But my thought on this, I could see why a lot of people do like this movie, and I feel like even though Uncharted is a beloved game franchise and has devout fans, I can always understand some casual like moviegoers just wanting to see a fun movie, and hey, with Spider-Man still being in theaters and people being out for months now, I'm sure there's some people that were like, I want to see another movie, but like I don't know if I want to keep seeing Spider-Man. Oh, here's another action movie with Tom Holland starring. Oh, let's go see that. And yeah, I have no problem with that. Or certainly there's some things that people can enjoy from it. I was under the impression that this could have been. I just keep thinking like, man, this could have been much better. And I don't. And I feel like the writing does not help, or I feel like some of the choices made with the story-wise felt like, kind of hindered out what I think could have been a really good movie. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And as I said, like Steven, I know you said you haven't experienced either the movie nor any of the games, so do you have any thoughts on these at all, or thoughts on, just in general? Okay, so he's not back, so all right. I'm just trying to think. I said I try not to spoil things, so as I said, like PlayStation, Sony's gonna do many more video game movies, and I think in general, I am more excited for series than movies. But if I have to pick a franchise that I'd say would make a pretty good movie, is I think Sekiro. Oh wait, no, is Sekiro Sony, or maybe I don't want to say Bloodborne. I do feel like that needs to be a series because there's a lot of crazy stuff in that game. And maybe God of War. I think if you're doing the part of the first God of War, you could make a pretty good movie. But again, it's like, are they going to fully commit to an R-rated? Because I feel like that's the only way that's going to really work.
All right.
I also would have said Ratchet & Clank would have been a really good. Sorry, I was just like, I covered mostly my thoughts on Uncharted, so I was just thinking about like other Sony-related properties that I think could make a good movie, and I was just thinking about, and I thought of a couple, but I kept thinking like, maybe this could be better as a series than a movie, because I do think that there's been better success with making video game-based shows than movies. So
yeah, it's what there's more space to tell a story if you do a series. So yeah, I'm glad you were able to keep the audience entertained.
I did say I thought like the first God of War, I think that could be a movie because that's just purely a revenge story, but it has to be R-rated.
Yeah, I did.
Don't try no PG-13 stuff with that. No.
I did catch that little bit at the end.
Yeah. But like Ratchet & Clank could have been a really good movie, but like, I remember that animated film they did a while back, and no. I don't want to remember it. I want to forget it. I was happier forgetting that movie.
Alright, so we've got one more thing to talk about, and funny enough, it's about a video game adaptation that is a TV series. So, Cuphead. It recently launched on Netflix. There's 12 episodes. Yes. They're about 11 minutes each. The dog's being cute. He's very distracting. Very, very distracting.
Aww.
Huh. Anyway, I wrote some thoughts while I was watching the show. So,
alright.
My initial reactions is that, first off, we all know that the game did a phenomenal job imitating the art style and aesthetic of early cartoons.
Oh yeah.
The show also does a phenomenal job of doing this. It's you can tell that it's been crafted to very closely resemble the cartoons of old. And it nails the art style. The voice acting is pretty good. Some of it's campy, but it's Cuphead. What are you expecting? I like the music, but I also, especially the jazzy bits. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
I'm a jazz person. I like jazz. And I think my favorite character has to be the devil. Every time he's on screen, it's just, it's a hoot. And the voice actor is clearly having fun playing the part. And, it's just a fun character. Now to the kind of negative parts about it. It's, it's outside of the art style. There's not really anything unique about it. The characters are, design-wise, they stand out, they pop, but as characters, outside of the design work, they're pretty static, which, I expect from a show that is of an episodic nature. The stories, they're pretty slice of life. Typical Saturday cartoon fare. Like I said, it does a really good job imitating the Saturday cartoon feel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of clever throwbacks to classic cartoons, especially in the title cards. And there are some story threads. They're very thin, but there are some reoccurring storylines. Nothing deep, but there's a tiny itty bitty sense of continuity. Will I watch season 2? Probably, so I can do a review of that for this. Would I recommend it? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's got two main audiences that it's gunning for. Fans of classic cartoons, which I am not, and fans of Cuphead, which, Cuphead's more like a novelty for me. I do like the character designs for the most part. I think they're neat. But I also like that you can feel the passion that the creators have behind it. And that is an important part to me. So, I give it a mostly thumbs up.
All right. I can only speak for somebody who's only seen the first 5 episodes, and I'm already loving it. I feel like there's some episodes that are better than others, but as you said, this is definitely appealing to people who love old animation, or the 30s and 40s animation. Not just Disney, not just Looney Tunes, but also the Fletcher Studios, and also some obscure cartoons from that back then. I am so happy they fully embraced this, and the characters aren't anything too dynamic. They're nothing too they're very two-dimensional characters, but ultimately speaking, I feel like that's part of the aesthetic of what they're going for with this. I mean, I watch these with a mindset of watching cartoons you saw on Boomerang.
Yeah, I mean,
and this is to
be fair to the characters,
this is
it's not a show where the characters are really the focus. The characters are more there as pieces to play out scenarios.
Yeah, they very much are simple archetypes. The two brothers, one's the mischief one, the other's the more shy, responsible one. Got the elderly figure, you got your villains, you got other supporting characters that function within the story. And as I said, also the Cuphead game did not have a super complicated story. Two brothers, they end up playing a game. They ended up accidentally selling their soul to the devil, and the devil says, "I'll let go of your souls, but you got to do this thing for me." And then they go on adventures to try and try and appease their contract with fulfill their contract with the devil and everything. Pretty simple storytelling. So I was not expecting anything too crazy or anything too complicated with this story. Because again, this is paying a lot of homage to old cartoons from the 30s and 40s, and they had pretty simple stories too. And also, they were more willing to show very scary images back in those days. Just look up like Halloween cartoons or any old Disney cartoon or Fletcher Studios cartoons, and they had no problem showing skeletons, ghosts, and demons, and other pretty stuff that I'm not sure if a lot of kids nowadays could really handle. I'm not sure. I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Those darn kids.
Yeah. But as I said, I would definitely recommend this show from what I've seen so far. As I said, I think this show could be a gateway for kids to look up old cartoons. I mean, you never know. I feel like this is I knew what this show was going for, and I think it does it very well.
Oh yeah, it does a fantastic job of what it's set out to do. And I went in knowing that I don't really like classic cartoons. They've never really appealed to me. The most I'd watch was Tom and Jerry when I was younger, and now that I'm older, I'm just not a big fan of it anymore. I don't like the slapstick comedy a lot. But, I would 100% recommend this to people who are pining for the good old days, as they say. Funny enough, Xander, who likes Cuphead, was not excited for this show at all. He thought it looked weird.
I remember him saying that when we were talking about this trailer for this show, and he was like, "This ain't my Cuphead," and I'm just sitting here like,
"Oh my god,
what is your Cuphead?"
Hashtag not my Cuphead.
What was? Yeah, what is the lore of Cuphead that you feel this show is failing to provide you? Like, I want to know. Like,
well, don't be too mean to him.
I know, but it's sort of like I was just so confused. Like, is it just because the Cupheads are not Cuphead and Mugman are not just constantly fighting the other cartoon characters? Is that why he doesn't like this, or why it's not his Cuphead? Like,
I think it's probably got a lot to do with the fact that they're voiced. That Cuphead is voiced, unless he's voiced in the game. I've never played the game.
I mean, it was only in the one thing come back to life, and they just say thank you. That's all the voice they had for that. They had very deep voices.
I think it threw him off that Cuphead was given a voice.
Well,
and it's Xander. And plus he's entitled to his opinion, his non-harmful opinion.
Yeah, it's like I'm not super offended by it, but I'm just like trying to piece together like. Why? I'm just curious, like why he has that opinion is where I'm coming at.
I mean, I can ask him about it, but he's obviously he's asleep right now. I'm not gonna wake him up just to ask him.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you like this Cuphead show? Can you imagine if I did that?
Kid.
I'd be such a jerk.
Tell me why you don't like Cuphead. Tell me right now.
Oh my god.
Talk, you punk, talk. No, I ain't gonna do that.
Right, so that is all we have for you tonight.
Yes.
So, thank you for tuning in. And as always, leave a like, subscribe, maybe comment, and stay cool.
Yes. Goodbye.